Something is deeply wrong with the modern idea of a strong man. We see a crisis of authenticity, a search for something real beneath the noise of performance and posturing. Many feel untethered, reacting to every wind instead of standing firm. This isn't about going back in time. It's about finding an operating system for grounded strength that works right now. That system is Stoicism, but forget everything you think you know about dusty philosophy. This is a practical manual for living. In this video, we will unveil 25 Stoic laws, principles to internalize until they become instinct. These laws are designed to do one thing: align you with a natural, unshakable masculine polarity. This isn't about theory, it's a blueprint. By the end, you will have a complete framework to rebuild your mindset from the ground up, turning volatility into steadfastness. We will explore why loving your fate is the ultimate power move, and how remembering your death is the key to truly living. What does a man built on these principles actually look like in a world that constantly tests him? The first law is not a suggestion, it is the bedrock. Everything else we discuss rests upon this single, unbreakable distinction. It is called the dichotomy of control. At its core, this principle states that some things are within your power and most things are not. Your power lies exclusively in your own mind, in your judgments, your choices, your intentions, and your actions. Everything outside of that, the weather, the traffic, the opinions of others, the stock market, the past, is not within your control. This sounds simple, almost too simple. But the masculine crisis today is largely a crisis of misallocated energy. Men are exhausting themselves trying to control the uncontrollable. They rage at a delayed flight as if their anger could bend time. They agonize over a stranger's critical comment online, giving a stranger's keyboard power over their inner peace. They replay past mistakes on a loop, attempting to edit a film that has already been shot. This is the opposite of polarity. It is dissipation. It is being pulled in every direction by external hooks. Masculine polarity is not about controlling the world. It is about commanding the fortress of the self. When you master this dichotomy, you perform a fundamental energy transfer. You stop pouring your finite focus, your emotional fuel, into the bottomless pit of externals. You reclaim all that power and you direct it inward to the only place where change is ever possible, your own character and your response. Imagine two men in the same storm. The first man is cursing the wind, shaking his fist at the rain, his entire being tied to the weather's whims. He is volatile, reactive, powerless. The second man acknowledges the storm, he prepares for it, but his focus remains on keeping his own fire lit, on maintaining his own course. His calm is not indifference, it is sovereignty. That is the power shift. The man aligned with natural masculine polarity does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" He asks, "What is within my power to do about it?" His energy is conserved, focused like a laser on his sphere of influence. He builds his strength where it counts, and in doing so, he becomes an immovable object in a world of uncontrollable forces. This is the first and greatest law, because without it, you are building your house on sand. That fortress of the self, built on knowing what you can and cannot control, faces its first real test the moment life throws something difficult at you. This brings us to the second law, a principle so powerful it was borrowed centuries later by the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. It is called amor fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of your fate. This is not passive acceptance. It is not shrugging your shoulders and saying, "Well, I guess this is my lot in life." That is resignation, and resignation is weak. Amor fati is active, it is aggressive. It is looking at every single event in your life, especially the painful, difficult, unexpected ones, and choosing to love them. Not in spite of what they are, but because of what they are. The Stoics understood that resistance to what is already real is the source of our greatest suffering. When you fight your own story, you are at war with reality itself, and you will always lose. Amor fati ends that civil war. It says, "This happened. It is now part of the timber of my life. I will not waste a single ounce of energy wishing it were different. Instead, I will find the way to use it. I will love it for the strength it forces me to develop, for the lesson it carves into me, for the new direction it reveals." This is how you turn every obstacle into fuel. A man stuck in a victim mentality sees a setback and asks, "Why does this always happen to me?" His narrative is one of persecution, and it makes him brittle. A man practicing amor fati faces the same setback and declares, "This is for me." He looks at the raw material of his misfortune and begins to work it, to shape it into a tool for his own growth. Think of a blacksmith. He does not curse the piece of iron for being hard and unyielding. That very hardness is what he needs. He embraces the resistance, he applies the fire and the hammer, and through that loving, forceful engagement, he forges a blade. Your hardships are your iron. To love your fate is to become the blacksmith of your own character. It is the ultimate act of masculine ownership over your life's narrative. You are no longer a character being written by circumstance. You are the author who takes every plot twist, even the tragic ones, and weaves them into a story of resilience and strength. This makes a man truly unbreakable. When you love your fate, there is nothing life can throw at you that you cannot metabolize into power. The loss becomes a lesson in what truly matters. The betrayal becomes a masterclass in discernment. The failure becomes the solid ground upon which you build your next, wiser attempt. This law transforms you from a man who is shaped by events into a man who shapes himself through them. But to love your fate and command your own fortress, you must first understand the timeline you're working with. This leads us to the third law, a practice that sounds dark but is in fact the ultimate source of light. Memento mori, remember you must die. Now, this is not a morbid obsession with the end. It is not about fear or despair. Think of it instead as the most clarifying lens through which you can view your entire life. The Stoics did not see death as a distant, abstract tragedy. They saw it as a daily advisor, a constant, gentle whisper at your shoulder asking one piercing question: is this how you choose to spend your precious, finite time? When you internalize memento mori, something profound happens. All the noise begins to fade. The petty grievances, the needless anxieties, the hours lost to distraction or resentment, they start to look like what they truly are, a theft of your most non-renewable resource. Your life, this awareness forces a brutal and beautiful honesty. It cuts through procrastination like a hot knife. You stop waiting for the perfect moment because you know that moment may never come. You act, you have the difficult conversation today, you start the project now, you tell the people you love that you love them not someday but now. A man who lives with this reminder operates with a quiet, undeniable urgency. It is not a frantic, panicked energy, it is a steady, purposeful drive. He does not waste days being offended because he understands that to hold a grudge is to let someone else live rent-free in the limited space of his mind. He does not chase shallow validation because he knows the applause of strangers will mean nothing in his final moments. What will matter is the integrity of his character, the depth of his relationships, the work he did that felt true to him. This practice also instills a deep, almost overwhelming gratitude for the present. When you truly remember that this breath, this morning coffee, this conversation is fleeting and will never come again, you cannot help but savor it. The ordinary becomes sacred. The man who embraces memento mori walks through the world awake. He feels the sun on his skin and knows it is a gift. He listens to a friend's laughter and hears the music of a temporary, beautiful connection. This does not make him sad, it makes him intensely, vibrantly alive. His presence becomes powerful and grounded because he is not lost in regrets about yesterday or anxieties about tomorrow. He is right here, and because he knows his time is limited, he invests it only in what is meaningful. This is the secret. the awareness of death is not a shadow that follows you, it is a light you carry that makes everything else shine more brightly. It is the tool that carves away everything that is not essential, leaving only the solid, purposeful core of a life well lived. This clear-eyed view of time and mortality leads to a practical question: how do you actually prepare for the inevitable hardships that fill a life? The fourth law provides the answer, and it is a form of mental training used by the greatest Stoic practitioners. It is called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Now, this is not pessimism. It is not sitting around worrying about everything that could go wrong. That is anxiety, and it weakens you. Premeditatio malorum is a conscious, controlled exercise. It is the deliberate practice of walking through potential difficulties in your mind before they ever happen. You visualize the setback, the loss, the criticism, the failure. You do not just glance at it, you move into the scenario. You feel the initial sting, you watch your emotional reaction, and then, most importantly, you work through your response. What would you do? How would you handle it? What resources, internal and external, would you call upon? The purpose is not to feel fear, but to disarm it. By visiting these possibilities in the safe space of your imagination, you rob the future of its power to shock you. When a real crisis arrives, it feels familiar. You have already been here in your mind. You have already navigated this terrain. So instead of being flooded with panic, your first thought is, this is that thing I prepared for. Now I execute the plan. This is how you build what modern thinkers call antifragility. A fragile system breaks under stress. A resilient system withstands it. But an antifragile system actually gets stronger because of it. Premeditatio malorum is the training that makes your mind antifragile. You are not just building a wall to keep difficulty out, you are inviting difficulty in for a training session. Think of a fire drill. No one conducts a fire drill because they want the building to burn down. They do it so that if smoke ever fills the hallway, the response is calm, practiced, and effective. Panic is what kills in an emergency, not the flames. Your mental fire drills work the same way. A man might premeditate losing his job. He feels the fear, the blow to his identity. Then he mentally walks through updating his resume, reaching out to his network, cutting non-essential expenses. He does this not once but regularly. So if the pink slip ever comes, the emotional tsunami is reduced to a manageable wave. He is already thinking about solutions while others are still drowning in shock. He might premeditate a serious illness, not to dwell on suffering, but to clarify his values. What would become truly important? Who would he want by his side? This practice instantly vaporizes the trivial concerns that normally consume his days. This discipline is a cornerstone of masculine composure. Composure is not the absence of pressure, it is the presence of a practiced response. When everyone else is losing their heads, the man who has done his premeditatio malorum remains operational. He becomes the calm center of the storm, not because he is unfeeling, but because he has already felt it all in advance and decided how he would stand. He has stress-tested his own character and found it ready. This premeditation of hardship reveals a crucial truth, that our ultimate security cannot be found in the outside world. It must be built within. This leads us to the fifth law, the Stoic's ultimate measure of a man. Virtue is the sole good. To the Stoic mind, everything in life falls into one of two categories. There are things that are good and there are things that are indifferent, and their definition of good is shockingly narrow and incredibly powerful. The only true goods are internal virtues, the excellence of your own character. Everything else, your health, your wealth, your reputation, your social status, even the well-being of your loved ones, these are classified as preferred indifference. Now, indifferent does not mean unimportant. It means these things do not determine your moral worth. You can prefer to have them, you can work wisely to secure them, but you must never confuse them for the goal itself. The goal, the only true good, is to cultivate a virtuous character. This is built on four cardinal pillars. The first is wisdom, the ability to see the world clearly, to navigate complex situations with sound judgment, to distinguish between what is within your control and what is not. The second is courage, not the absence of fear, but the moral fortitude to do what is right even when it is difficult, dangerous, or socially costly. The third is justice, which encompasses fairness, kindness, and your duty to contribute to the common good of humanity. The fourth is temperance, the mastery of your appetites and impulses, self-discipline in all things. When you make these virtues your sole good, something profound shifts in your life's mission. Your primary aim is no longer to get a promotion, though you may work hard and earn one. Your aim is to act with wisdom and justice in your work. Your goal is not to be liked by everyone, but to have the courage to speak truth when necessary. You do not seek wealth for its own sake, but practice temperance in managing it and justice in using it. This creates an internal compass that is utterly unswayed by external fortune. Think of two men who lose their financial security in a market crash. The first man has tied his entire identity and sense of worth to his net worth. The crash doesn't just wipe out his account, it annihilates his self-concept. He is plunged into despair, feeling like a failure and a fraud. The second man, who holds virtue as his sole good, feels the same practical fear and stress. But his core identity remains intact. He assesses the situation with wisdom. He faces the uncertainty with courage. He deals with his family and creditors with justice. He practices temperance by cutting back without complaint. The loss is a severe blow to his preferred indifference, but it cannot touch his good because his good is how he chooses to respond. This is the foundation of unshakable masculine polarity. A man centered on externals is like a weather vane, spinning with every shift in public opinion or market sentiment. He is perpetually off balance, seeking validation from a world that cannot provide it. But a man centered on virtue is like a deep-rooted tree. The winds may howl and strip his leaves, the storms may rage, but his core remains solid, grounded in something no external event can ever take from him. His mission is no longer to acquire, but to become. And in that becoming, he finds a peace and a power that no amount of money or fame could ever buy. That inner fortress of virtue requires a vigilant gatekeeper. The sixth law is that gatekeeper's discipline, a mental martial art practiced in the silent space between a trigger and your reaction. It is called the discipline of assent. Here is the core truth it defends. You are not disturbed by events themselves, but by your judgments about those events. An impression, what the Stoics called a fantasia, enters your mind. It could be a critical email, a rude comment from a stranger, a sudden financial worry. That raw data is neutral. The suffering, the anger, the anxiety that comes in the next millisecond when you give your assent. You stamp the impression with your judgment. You declare it to be bad, threatening, or unjust. The discipline of assent is the practice of inserting a pause between the impression and that stamp. It is the ultimate act of mental sovereignty. Most people live their lives on autopilot, a chain reaction of stimulus and emotional response. Someone cuts them off in traffic and their body floods with rage before they've even had a thought. They see a negative number in their bank account and a wave of panic crashes over them. They are hijacked by their own nervous system. This is the opposite of composure. It is captivity. The man who practices this discipline sees the same impression arrive, but he catches it at the gate. He holds it up to the light of his reason. He asks it three simple, devastating questions. Is this impression within my control? Is it true or merely my interpretation? What would a wise and virtuous response look like? Let's make this concrete. The impression, your partner seems distant and quiet this evening. The automatic, undisciplined judgment rushes in. She is angry with me. I must have done something wrong. This is a problem I need to fix right now. Anxiety tightens your chest. You become needy or defensive. The evening spirals. Now apply the discipline. Pause, examine the impression. Is her mood within my control? No, her internal state is hers to manage. Is my judgment true? It is one interpretation among many. Perhaps she is tired from work. Perhaps she is preoccupied with a problem of her own. The data is simply quietness. Everything else is a story I am adding. Finally, what is a virtuous response? Wisdom says do not assume. Courage says be willing to face an uncomfortable truth if it exists. Justice says offer kindness and space. Temperance says manage my own anxiety without dumping it on her. So you act from that place. You might simply say, you seem quiet tonight. Is everything okay? And then you truly listen. The outcome may be the same, a conversation about a problem, but your inner state is worlds apart. You responded instead of reacted. You were the calm captain of your ship, not a passenger tossed by every wave of emotion. This is how you build that calm, deliberate, masculine demeanor. It is not the absence of feeling, it is the mastery of the space between feeling and action. Every time you practice this pause, you are doing a single rep for your character. You are strengthening your rational mind against the tyranny of raw impulse. Over time, this discipline rewires your nervous system. Offenses that used to ruin your day now glance off you. Setbacks become puzzles to solve, not personal attacks. You stop seeing monsters in the shadows because you have learned to turn on the light of your own judgment first. Your power no longer leaks out in emotional reactions. It is conserved for purposeful action. Mastering your internal judgments is only half the battle. The other half is what you do with that clarity. This brings us to the seventh law, the discipline of action. While the discipline of assent governs your inner world, this law governs your impact on the outer world. It is the commitment to act always with the common good in mind and in strict accordance with virtue. This transforms everything. Your actions are no longer just about getting what you want or reacting to what you fear. They become purposeful, contributive, and aligned with a higher principle. It is not merely what you do, but how you do it, and most importantly, why you do it. A man who embodies this discipline understands that every action, no matter how small, is a brick in the monument of his character. He asks himself a simple, powerful question before he acts. Is this for the benefit of the whole, or merely for my own narrow advantage? Let's break this down with a practical example. Two men are working on a team project with a tight deadline. The first man is operating from a self-serving mindset. He does his assigned tasks, but only the bare minimum. He hoards information that could help the team, thinking it makes him look more valuable. He focuses on making his own contributions shine, even if it means subtly undermining a colleague. His actions are technically correct, but they are hollow. They lack integrity because they are divorced from the common good. The second man practices the discipline of action. He also completes his tasks, but he does so with excellence because he sees it as his duty to the team's shared goal. He shares resources freely, knowing that a rising tide lifts all boats. He offers help to a struggling teammate, not for recognition, but because a stronger team delivers a better result. His actions are infused with justice and courage. He is reliable, not because he is seeking a reward, but because reliability is a virtue in itself. Can you feel the difference? The first man may achieve short-term gains, but he builds a reputation for selfishness. He becomes a node of friction. The second man builds something far more valuable, trust. He becomes a pillar. In his family, this discipline means he acts not out of obligation or for praise, but from a genuine commitment to the household's well-being. He does the dishes not because his partner asked, but because a clean kitchen contributes to a peaceful home. He listens attentively to his child's long story, not because he has to, but because giving his full presence is an act of love and justice. In his community, it means he contributes value without needing his name on a plaque. He picks up litter on his street. He offers clear, kind feedback. He supports local businesses not just as a consumer but as a stakeholder in a healthy neighborhood. This discipline eradicates passive aggression and covert contracts. You no longer do things with a hidden ledger expecting something in return. You act because it is the right thing to do, full stop. This creates a profound and magnetic integrity. People may not be able to articulate why, but they feel it. They know this man's word is solid, his actions are consistent, and his motives are clean. He is not swayed by the mood of the moment. He is guided by a deeper compass. This makes him a foundation others can build upon. In a world full of transactional relationships and performance, the man who acts for the common good stands out as authentically strong. He is not trying to be a leader, he naturally becomes one because true leadership is simply virtuous action scaled. His power comes not from controlling others, but from being a source of unwavering, constructive force. He builds a legacy not of what he took, but of what he contributed. These two disciplines of assent and action form a powerful feedback loop, but they require fuel, a source of motivation that is clean and self-sustaining. This brings us to the eighth law, the discipline of desire. At its heart, this is the practice of retraining your deepest wants and fears to align with nature and virtue. It means learning to desire only what is truly within your power and to release your grip on everything that is not. The Stoics had a radical view on this. They said you should desire only one thing: to live with excellence of character, to act with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Everything else, every external outcome you might chase, should be met with a phrase they called "with reservation." I desire to win this race, but only if I can do so with fairness and integrity. I desire to succeed in business, but only if my actions benefit my community. The desire is for the virtuous action itself, not the trophy at the end. The outcome is accepted peacefully, whatever it may be. This is how you eradicate neediness. A needy man is defined by his attachment to specific results. He needs the promotion to feel valuable. He needs her to say yes to feel worthy. He needs everyone to like him to feel secure. His happiness is held hostage by a world he cannot control. When he doesn't get what he desires, he is shattered. When he gets what he fears, he is consumed by anxiety. The discipline of desire cuts these chains. It asks you to perform a profound mental shift. Instead of desiring to win the game, you desire to play with total focus, sportsmanship, and skill. The scoreboard becomes information, not a verdict on your soul. Instead of desiring a specific person's affection, you desire to be a man of integrity, warmth, and strength. Whether that affection is returned or not is outside your control, and thus it is not the proper object of your desire. Your desire is to offer your best self unconditionally. This creates a man who is self-contained. His sense of worth, his drive, his peace all come from an internal source he commands. He is not a beggar at the world's table, hoping for scraps of validation. He is a host offering his own gifts. Think of two artists. The first artist desires fame. He paints what he thinks will sell. He checks social media constantly for likes. His mood swings with every critique. His art and his life become a desperate performance. The second artist desires the virtue of craftsmanship. He desires to see truly and to render honestly. He pours himself into the work for its own sake. He is indifferent to trends and applause. Which artist do you think produces the more powerful, authentic work? Which one lives with more freedom? The discipline of desire is what separates the principle-driven man from the puppet of his passions. When your deepest want is to act rightly, you are never truly deprived. Even in loss, even in rejection, even in failure, you can still achieve your primary goal, which was to conduct yourself with honor. This is not a recipe for passivity. It is a recipe for relentless, fearless action. Because you are no longer afraid of the outcome, you are free to pour your entire being into the process. You compete harder because you are not crippled by the fear of losing. You love more openly because you are not terrified of not being loved back. You take bold career risks because your identity isn't tied to the job title. Your desires are now aligned with your agency. You want what you can actually achieve through your own effort and character. This alignment generates a calm, magnetic confidence. People can feel when a man is not leaning on them for his sense of okayness. He is solid, complete, and engaging with the world from a place of abundance, not lack. He desires nothing from you but the opportunity to interact with virtue, and that makes all the difference. This self-containment, this alignment of desire with virtue, creates a profound inner stability. But to prevent that stability from curdling into self-absorption, a man needs a regular dose of perspective. The ninth law provides exactly that. It is called the view from above. This is an ancient Stoic meditation, a deliberate exercise in mental zoom. You begin by picturing yourself right where you are. See the room, the desk, the immediate concerns that feel so large. Then, in your mind's eye, you rise. You float up through the ceiling to the rooftop of your building. From here, your personal space is just one container among many. You see the other homes, the streets, the countless lives unfolding in parallel to yours. You continue to ascend. The city becomes a grid of light, a human hive. The landscape stretches out, mountains and rivers that were here millennia before you and will remain long after. You keep going. The planet is now a blue marble hanging in the vast, silent black. Your country, your city, your street, your room have vanished into the whole. From this cosmic vantage point, your problems are not diminished in their reality, but they are recontextualized. The argument that ruined your morning, the critical email, the social slight, the financial worry seen from here, they are what they truly are, small waves on a vast ocean. This practice does two essential things for masculine polarity. First, it annihilates pettiness. When you mentally return from that height, the drama that felt all-consuming minutes ago now seems almost laughably small. It is impossible to stay genuinely offended by a parking ticket when you have just contemplated the infinite expanse of space and time. Your ego, which wants to make every minor inconvenience a grand tragedy, is gently but firmly put in its place. You regain the capacity to say, this does not matter in the grand scheme, and you mean it. Second, and more importantly, the view from above fosters a deep, humbling sense of connection. From that high vantage, you see no borders. You see one interconnected system where the patterns swirling, rivers feeding oceans, the shared atmosphere that every living thing breathes. You realize your life is a single thread in an unimaginably vast tapestry. This cultivates a grounded humility. It is the opposite of feeling insignificant. It is feeling part of something significant and grand. A man who practices this regularly cannot become arrogant. How could he? He has seen his home from the stars. He understands his triumphs and troubles are but a brief, flickering moment in the cosmic story. This does not make his actions meaningless. It makes them purposeful within a larger frame. He stops taking himself so damn seriously. He approaches his work, his relationships, his goals with a lighter touch and a calmer heart. The daily dramas that fluster other men simply fail to land on him with the same weight. He has a serene, big-picture mindset. Imagine two leaders facing a corporate crisis. The first is immersed only in the panic of the boardroom, the crashing numbers on the screen. His vision is myopic, his stress is contagious, his decisions are reactive and short-sighted. The second leader, who cultivates the view from above, feels the same pressure, but in his mind he can zoom out. He sees the crisis as one event in the decades-long story of the company. He sees the employees not as problems to manage, but as people with families, part of a community. He sees the market as a dynamic system, always in flux. From this calmer, wider perspective, his decisions are more strategic, more compassionate, more effective. He is unflappable not because he doesn't care, but because he cares about things too large to be shaken by a single storm. This is the gift of the ninth law. It is a mental reset button. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, contracted by worry, or inflated by pride, you take the ascent. You return to your life not with indifference but with clarity. Your small story is now held within the big story, and from that place you can act not from frantic ego but from a quiet, steady center that knows its true scale. This cosmic perspective gives you the scale, but it is down here on the ground where your character is truly forged. The 10th law is perhaps the most actionable principle in the entire Stoic arsenal. It states quite simply that the obstacle is the way. This idea, popularized in modern times, is pure ancient Stoicism. It flips the entire script on adversity. An obstacle is not a detour from your path. It is not an unfair blockage placed by a malicious universe. It is the path itself. It is the very terrain you are meant to cross to become who you need to be. The Stoics did not believe in a life free of difficulty. They believed a life without difficulty would produce a weak, untested soul. The obstacle is the gymnasium for your virtues. It is the only place where courage can be practiced, where creativity is forced to awaken, where resilience is built cell by cell. To see the obstacle as the way is to become an alchemist of circumstance. Your job is no longer to remove the impediment, but to use it to transmute its raw, resistant energy into forward motion. History offers a masterclass in this law through the life of Marcus Aurelius. He did not want to be emperor during a plague. He did not want to spend years of his life on the brutal northern frontier, fighting endless wars against Germanic tribes. These were monumental obstacles, any one of which could have crushed a lesser man. Yet it was precisely in that crucible that his philosophy was forged into steel. He could have seen the plague as a reason to despair, to retreat into hedonism while Rome suffered. Instead, he saw it as his duty to remain steadfast, to organize relief, to provide an example of calm leadership in the face of terror. He could have seen the distant, muddy war camps as a miserable exile from the comforts of Rome. Instead, he used the long, cold nights to write what would become his meditations, turning the obstacle of war into the opportunity to create one of history's greatest works of practical philosophy. The obstacle was not apart from his path to greatness, it was the substance of it. Every challenge was a question posed by fate, and his virtuous action was the answer. This mindset is what separates the reactive man from the resourceful one. The reactive man hits a financial setback and sees a wall. He complains, he blames, he feels victimized. His energy is spent on resistance. The man who knows the obstacle is the way hits the same wall and sees raw material. He immediately starts asking new questions. How can this limitation force me to be more creative? What dormant skills does this force me to develop? What unnecessary spending does this reveal? The wall is no longer a stop sign. It is a climbing wall placed there to build his strength. He begins to look for the handholds. This is not positive thinking. It is strategic thinking. It is the recognition that the quality of your life is determined not by what happens to you, but by what you do with what happens. The obstacle becomes a tailor-made training module for your character. A difficult colleague is not a curse, but a masterclass in patience and assertive communication. A failed project is not proof of your inadequacy, but a detailed report card showing exactly where you need to improve. A period of loneliness is not an indictment, but a silent retreat to rebuild your relationship with yourself. When you adopt this lens, you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You realize perfect conditions are a fairy tale. The messy, difficult, imperfect reality is the only workshop you will ever get. The man who embraces this law moves through the world with a different energy. He is not easily frustrated because frustration is just a signal that his current approach is not working and a new one is required. He welcomes resistance because he knows that friction is what creates traction. He understands that smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. His confidence grows not from a life of easy wins, but from a proven track record of navigating storms. He becomes antifragile. The very things that were meant to break him end up tempering him into something harder, sharper, and more capable. In this way, the obstacle is not just the way, it is the gift. It is the universe's method of delivering exactly the challenge you need to level up. Your job is not to refuse the delivery, but to unwrap it and get to work. That unshakable composure, forged in the crucible of obstacles, demands a final layer of polish. It is not enough to think clearly and act virtuously. You must also communicate with the same deliberate power. This brings us to the 11th law, a principle of profound restraint. Speak only what is necessary. In an age of constant noise, where everyone has a platform and an opinion, silence is a superpower. The Stoics were masters of this. Epictetus gave us the perfect anatomical clue. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This is not a suggestion for better conversation. It is an operational manual for influence and integrity. To speak only what is necessary means every word must pass a 3-part filter before it leaves your lips. Is it true? Is it kind? Or at the very least necessary? Is it beneficial to the situation? If a statement fails any one of these tests, it gets held back. This filter eliminates the vast majority of what most people say in a day. It cuts out gossip, which is almost never true in its full context and serves no beneficial purpose except to bond over the failure of others. It eliminates complaining, which is a verbal leakage of energy that solves nothing and burdens everyone who hears it. It stops boastful talk, which is a desperate attempt to borrow worth from external achievements rather than demonstrating an internal quiet confidence. When you apply this filter, your speech becomes dense with meaning. Your words carry weight because they are rare. People learn to lean in when you speak because they know you are not just filling the air with sound. You have considered your point, you have measured its impact, and you are delivering only the essential payload. This cultivates the archetype of the strong, silent type, but in its most effective modern form. It is not about being a man of few words because you are shy or sullen. It is about being a man of precise words because you are thoughtful and powerful. Your silence is not empty, it is full of observation and consideration. Think of 2 leaders addressing their team after a difficult quarter. The first leader speaks at length. He complains about market conditions, he makes excuses, he offers vague promises. His speech is an emotional release that leaves the team feeling more anxious and uncertain. The second leader, practicing this law, is concise. He acknowledges the reality without drama. He states the clear plan moving forward. He offers 1 or 2 specific, actionable pieces of encouragement. Then he stops. His speech takes 2 minutes, but it leaves the team focused, clear, and energized. Who commands more respect? The man who speaks only what is necessary also becomes a master listener. Because he is not mentally rehearsing his next witty remark or waiting for his turn to talk, he can truly absorb what others are saying. He hears not just the words, but the meaning beneath them. This gives him a strategic advantage in every negotiation, every relationship, every conflict. He understands the room before he ever tries to lead it. His responses, when they come, are not reactions, they are solutions. This discipline also protects your inner peace. So much of our anxiety is fueled by our own verbal commitments, by promises we should not have made, by opinions we did not need to share, by arguments we did not need to win. When you guard your speech, you guard your energy and your reputation. People come to see you as reliable because if you say it, they know it is solid. They trust that your yes means yes and your no means no. In a world of endless talk, the man who knows when to be silent stands like a mountain in a windstorm, utterly unmoved by the chaos of words swirling around him. His power is in what he chooses not to say. Your words shape your world, but the people around you shape your character. This brings us to the 12th law, a principle of profound environmental responsibility. Your circle is your vibe. The Stoics understood that virtue is not a solo sport. You cannot cultivate excellence of character while constantly immersed in mediocrity or malice. Your associations act as a slow, steady drip on your mindset, either reinforcing your highest ideals or quietly eroding them. Seneca put it with brutal clarity when he warned, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. The process is mutual, for men learn while they teach. He goes further, stating plainly that just as certain diseases are contagious, so too is a twisted mindset passed from neighbor to neighbor. You must be as vigilant about the moral health of your companions as you would be about their physical health in a plague. This is not about elitism or snobbery, it is about self-preservation. Masculine polarity, that grounded, principled strength, is a flame. It can be nurtured into a roaring fire by the right company, or it can be smothered by a crowd that prefers the damp and the dark. Think of your social circle as the soil in which you are planted. You can be the strongest seed, but if the soil is toxic and depleted, you will struggle to grow straight and tall. Your environment is not a passive backdrop, it is an active participant in your development. A man who constantly complains will, over time, train your brain to see only what is lacking. A man who cuts corners and celebrates petty victories will normalize dishonor in your mind. A man who is ruled by his appetites will make your own discipline feel foolish and unnecessary. This influence is subtle, a gradual shift in your baseline of what feels acceptable. Conversely, the man who faces adversity with calm resolve raises your own standard for composure. The friend who speaks with honest kindness shows you a better way to communicate. The mentor who challenges your assumptions forces your wisdom to grow. This law demands a conscious audit. You must look at your friendships and ask a hard question. Does this person make me better, or do they simply make me feel comfortable in my current state? Comfort is the enemy of growth. The right association should feel like a gentle, persistent challenge. It should inspire you to rise, not give you permission to settle. This means taking radical responsibility for your social ecosystem. You are the curator of your inner circle. This does not require a dramatic purge of old friends, but it does require honest boundaries and intentional investment. You might need to gracefully spend less time with a colleague whose only topic is office gossip. You might need to seek out new connections, perhaps joining a mastermind group, a martial arts gym, or a volunteer organization where people are oriented toward growth and contribution. Most importantly, you must seek mentors, those who are further down the path you wish to walk. A true mentor does not give you all the answers, they ask you the right questions. They model virtue in action, and their very presence is a reminder of what is possible. Your vibe, your energetic signature, is a direct average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you want to cultivate unwavering polarity, you must surround yourself with those who embody fragments of it. This is how you create a self-reinforcing system. Your environment supports your virtues, and your strengthened virtues allow you to contribute more to your environment. You stop being a passive consumer of social dynamics and become an architect of them, building a world that pulls the best version of you forward day after day. Your social circle provides the environment, but the strength to stand firm within it must be forged in private. This leads us to the 13th law, a practice of deliberate self-imposed hardship called voluntary discomfort. The Stoics were not masochists. They did not seek pain for its own sake. They were pragmatic engineers of the human spirit, and they understood a fundamental truth: comfort is a trap. A life of uninterrupted ease makes you soft, dependent, and fearful. It creates a brittle man who panics at the first sign of inconvenience. To counter this, they prescribed regular, chosen doses of difficulty. This is the mental and physical equivalent of a fire drill. You do not wait for the building to burn to discover if you can handle the heat. You train for it in advance. The practices are simple, almost absurdly so. Take a cold shower instead of a hot one. Skip a meal and fast for a day. Choose to sleep on a firm surface instead of your plush mattress. Walk instead of drive. Take on a physically demanding task you could easily pay someone else to do. On the surface, this seems pointless. Why choose hardship when you have worked hard to avoid it? The purpose is threefold, and each reason builds a critical layer of masculine polarity. First, it toughens the body and mind through direct exposure. It teaches your nervous system that discomfort is not an emergency. When you stand under that cold water and control your breathing, you are not just getting clean. You are having a conversation with your primal brain that is screaming to get out. You are the one in charge. You are proving in a small, daily way that you can endure. This builds a reservoir of willpower that you can draw from when life hands you an involuntary cold shower, like a sudden financial freeze or a personal loss. Second, it cultivates a profound appreciation for your ordinary comforts without making you dependent on them. The man who never experiences hunger does not truly appreciate his food, he merely consumes it. The man who fasts for a day finds his next simple meal to be a feast of gratitude. He enjoys the warmth of his bed more because he knows he can sleep soundly without it. This breaks the subtle entitlement that luxury breeds. You stop seeing comfort as a right and start seeing it as a gift, which makes you more resilient and less entitled when it is temporarily taken away. Third, and most crucially, it builds an antifragile core. You are not just learning to withstand shocks, you are learning to benefit from them. Each chosen hardship is a small stressor that makes your system stronger, just as lifting weights creates micro tears in muscle that heal back thicker. When involuntary discomfort strikes, the man who practices voluntary discomfort does not see a terrifying anomaly. He sees a familiar, if larger, version of his daily training. His baseline for what constitutes a crisis is radically higher. While others are shattered by a minor inconvenience, he remains operational. Consider two men on a business trip where their flight is cancelled, stranding them in an airport overnight. The first man, accustomed to perfect comfort, is immediately enraged. He feels victimized, he complains loudly, his night is ruined by stress and frustration. The second man, who regularly practices voluntary discomfort, sighs, then adapts. He finds a quiet corner, uses his jacket as a pillow, and gets some rest. He might even find a strange novelty in the experience. His peace is not disturbed because his peace does not depend on a hotel mattress. He has already slept on harder surfaces by choice. This practice is the ultimate assertion of sovereignty over your own life. You are no longer a passive consumer of conditions, waiting for the world to be comfortable so you can be happy. You actively engage with discomfort to prove to yourself that your happiness is an internal condition, separate from external circumstances. It builds a quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing deep in your bones that you can handle more than you think. You are not preparing for a life of austerity. You are inoculating yourself against the fragility of a life of ease. The goal is not to live in a cave, but to be the kind of man who can thrive in a palace or a cave and carry the same unwavering peace within him. This self-imposed friction is what keeps your edge sharp so that when real resistance comes, you cut through it without hesitation. This voluntary friction polishes the surface, but the true sanctuary lies deeper within. The 14th law is the architectural blueprint for that sanctuary, a concept Marcus Aurelius himself relied upon: the inner citadel. Picture not a physical fortress of stone, but a psychological stronghold built from your reasoned judgments and virtuous commitments. This is the ultimate seat of your sovereignty. The Stoics believed that through the diligent practice of philosophy, you could construct an inner space so secure that no external event, no amount of praise or blame, no windfall or catastrophe could ever breach its walls unless you personally opened the gate and invited it in. Your peace, your worth, your core identity reside here under your sole command. This is not a metaphor for ignoring the world. It is the operational foundation for engaging with it from a position of unassailable strength. A man who has built his inner citadel does not crumble when criticized because his self-assessment is not for rent. He does not become arrogant when praised because his sense of value is not on loan from the crowd. Loss may strip him of possessions, but it cannot touch the citizen who lives inside. This is the very essence of masculine polarity, a gravitational center that is self-generated and immovable. Consider two men receiving a brutal public critique of their work. The first man has no inner citadel. His sense of self is constructed from the opinions of others like a house of cards. The critique is a hurricane. It demolishes him. He is flooded with shame, defensiveness, or despair. His entire day, perhaps his week, is hijacked. He is reactive, emotionally volatile, and easily manipulated because his buttons are on the outside for anyone to push. The second man has spent years fortifying his inner stronghold. He hears the same sharp words. He feels the initial sting, the human reaction, but he does not grant that critique entry into the core of who he is. He brings it to the gate of his citadel and examines it under the light of his own reason. Is there any truth here I can use to improve? Is this merely malice or ignorance? His judgment is calm, surgical. He may decide there is a useful nugget to incorporate, or he may dismiss it as noise, but his emotional state, his sense of worth, remains under his control. He is disappointed perhaps, but not derailed. He responds, if he responds at all, from a place of clarity, not wounded pride. This inner sovereignty makes a man virtually unmanipulable. The world's tools of control, shame, flattery, social pressure, and fear all rely on one assumption, that your peace is dependent on external conditions. They try to threaten or bribe the tenant inside the house, but when your peace is generated from within a fortified citadel, those tools become useless. You cannot be shamed by someone whose judgment you do not value over your own. You cannot be flattered into compliance when your worth is not for sale. You cannot be pressured by a mob when your compass is calibrated to virtue, not popularity. This is the deepest form of power, the power of non-reaction. It is not passivity, it is profound choice. You choose what enters your inner world. You choose what meaning to assign to events. You choose your response from a menu of virtuous options, not from a knee-jerk of fear or desire. Cultivating this citadel is the daily work of all the laws that came before. The dichotomy of control defines its borders. Amor fati is the acceptance of its landscape. The disciplines of assent and action are the drills of its garrison. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you act for the common good, every time you choose virtue over convenience, you are laying another stone, raising the wall another inch higher. The man who lives from his inner citadel walks with a different kind of quiet. It is the quiet of a deep reservoir, not an empty well. He is engaged with the world, but not entangled by it. His energy is conserved, his focus is sharp, and his presence is grounded because he is always, first and foremost, at home within himself. In a culture that constantly tries to storm your gates with distractions, outrage, and empty validation, building this inner fortress is the most rebellious and necessary act of masculine strength you will ever undertake. That inner citadel grants you the space for a fundamental shift in how you engage with the world. The 15th law makes this shift operational: act, do not react. This is the defining line between a puppet and a man of principle. A reactive life is a series of involuntary twitches, a knee-jerk to every push and pull from the outside. Someone insults you, you snap back. A problem arises, you panic. The market dips, you sell in fear. Your actions are not your own, they are hostages taken by circumstance. The Stoic ideal is the opposite, a life of proactive action where your moves are dictated by your internal compass, not by the latest external gust. The entire philosophy is engineered to widen that critical gap, the space between the stimulus, what happens to you, and your response, what you do about it. In that gap lies your freedom. A narrow gap means you are a slave to your impulses. A wide gap means you are a sovereign who chooses. Think of a martial artist facing an opponent's strike. The untrained man flinches, throws his hands up, and is overwhelmed. His reaction is pure survival instinct, and it leaves him open. The master sees the strike coming, but in the split second before impact, he is not panicking. He is assessing. He has a practiced menu of options: parry, deflect, counter, evade. He selects the most effective one and executes. That pause is not hesitation, it is the home of his skill. Your daily life is that dojo. The insult is the strike, the bad news is the strike, the unexpected demand is the strike. The reactive man has no gap, he is all flinch. His emotional volatility is a sign that his inner world is being written by the outer world. He is moody, unpredictable, and easily thrown off course because his center is not his own. The proactive man, through Stoic practice, has carved out a spacious gap. He feels the sting of the insult, but he does not grant it immediate passage to his vocal cords. He holds it in that space. He runs it through his disciplines. Is this within my control? What would a virtuous response look like? What action aligns with my principles, not just my pride? From that considered place he acts. He might choose silence, seeing the insult as the other person's problem, not his. He might respond with a calm question to diffuse the situation. He might simply walk away, conserving his energy for worthy battles. The action is his. It is deliberate. This is the core of strategic composure, and it is a non-negotiable marker of mature masculinity. Mature masculinity is not about suppressing emotion, it is about governing it. It is about having the emotional regulation to not be hijacked so that your higher faculties, your reason, your wisdom, your courage can be the ones in the driver's seat. A leader who reacts in anger to every setback creates a culture of fear and instability. A leader who acts from a calm assessment of the facts and a clear plan inspires confidence and loyalty. A father who reacts with frustration to a child's mistake teaches that emotion controls us. A father who pauses, then acts with patient correction, teaches that we control our emotions. This proactive stance transforms you from a piece on the board to a player of the game. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I do with this?" You move from a defensive, victim-oriented posture to an offensive, agency-oriented posture. Your life ceases to be something that happens to you and becomes something you are actively building, brick by deliberate brick, even when, especially when, the weather turns bad. The storms will come, they always do. The man who has mastered this law is not waiting for calm seas. He has simply learned how to sail in any weather because his course is set from within. A man who acts from his inner citadel has nothing to hide, especially from himself. This brings us to the 16th law, a direct test of that inner fortress. Own your errors immediately. The modern world teaches us to spin, deflect, and conceal our mistakes. We see it as a sign of weakness, a crack in the armor that others will exploit. The Stoics saw this as a profound error in judgment. To them, a mistake was not a moral failing, but a data point. It was a piece of information about where your reasoning or your skill fell short. To hide it, to deny it, was to reject that vital information. It was to choose the fragile illusion of perfection over the solid ground of improvement. Owning an error is not an admission of inferiority, it is a declaration of sovereignty. It says, "I am more committed to the truth than I am to my own ego's protection." This requires a specific kind of courage, the courage to be temporarily diminished in the eyes of others in order to grow permanently in your own character. Think of two team leaders whose project misses a critical deadline. The first leader calls a meeting and immediately begins the blame shuffle. It was the marketing department's slow feedback, the developer's unexpected bug, the client's shifting requirements. His energy is entirely defensive, aimed at distributing culpability away from himself. The team leaves the room demoralized, distrustful, and focused on protecting their own backs next time. Nothing is learned except the art of CYA, cover your anatomy. The second leader, embodying this Stoic law, stands up and says, "I own this." The timeline was my responsibility, and I failed to account for these specific bottlenecks. Here is what I have learned, and here is my adjusted plan to ensure it does not happen again. Then, and only then, does he calmly address the specific contributions of others, not as blame but as factual lessons for the system. His team's response is radically different. They see a leader who is secure enough to be vulnerable, and that security is contagious. They feel safe to admit their own part, to engage in honest problem solving, and their respect for him skyrockets. He has just demonstrated that the mission is more important than his image. This builds trust at a velocity that flawless performance never could, because performance can be faked, but this kind of integrity cannot. This applies on a personal scale with equal force. A father who loses his temper and yells at his child has a choice. He can justify it. I had a long day. You were not listening. You made me angry. This teaches the child that emotions are things that happen to you, that you are not responsible for your actions when you are stressed, or he can own the error. He can go to the child, kneel down, and say, I was wrong to yell at you like that. My frustration was mine to manage, and I did not do a good job. I am sorry. That is not a moment of weakness. It is a moment of immense strength. It models accountability, it repairs the relationship, and it etches a lesson about character far deeper than any punishment ever could. The man who practices this law divorces his identity from his infallibility. His sense of self is not built on being right, it is built on being in alignment with reality, and reality includes his own imperfections. When you own an error immediately, you accomplish several things at once. You disarm critics by beating them to the truth. You free up the mental energy wasted on constructing alibis and managing the story. You gain the priceless gift of a clear lesson, so you can actually correct course, and you demonstrate a confidence so rooted that it does not need the fertilizer of false perfection to grow. This is the hallmark of a man who is truly secure. He is not a statue afraid of a single crack. He is a living, learning organism, and every mistake is simply feedback guiding his next better step. Ownership of your errors clears the ground for a far more important structure, what you build in their place. This is the territory of the 17th law, a principle that cuts through all pretense. Be a man of action, not just words. The Stoics held a profound disdain for empty theorizing. Philosophy was not an intellectual parlor game to them, it was a forge, and the only worthwhile product was a life well lived. Epictetus was famously brutal on this point, shouting at his students that they should not simply recite the teachings of Zeno or Chrysippus, but should instead show him their transformed character. Talk is the cheapest currency in the world. Anyone can craft a beautiful plan, articulate a profound insight, or make a bold promise. The measure of a man, and the ultimate test of his masculine polarity, is found in the silent space between intention and execution. It is found in the doing. Consider the stark contrast. One man talks endlessly about his fitness goals, analyzes the perfect workout split, debates nutrition science online, and buys all the gear. His identity becomes entangled with the idea of being a fit person. Another man says little. He wakes up early, laces his shoes, and moves his body consistently, even when he does not feel like it. Which man actually becomes strong? The answer is obvious, yet we constantly fall for the seduction of the former. We mistake the map for the territory, the menu for the meal. The same pattern repeats everywhere. The entrepreneur who perfects his business plan for years but never launches. The writer who dreams of his novel but never writes the first page. The father who knows all the right parenting principles but is too distracted to get on the floor and play. This law demands a ruthless audit. Are you building a persona, or are you building a reality? Virtuous action, no matter how small, is the only brick that counts. It is the daily deposit into the bank of self-trust. Every time you follow through on a promise you made to yourself, no matter how minor, you strengthen the neural pathway of integrity. You teach your subconscious that your word has weight even when no one else is watching. You do not need to announce your actions. In fact, announcing them often drains the motivational energy needed to complete them, giving you a premature sense of accomplishment. The man aligned with this law operates in stealth mode. He sets his intention and then he disappears into the work. His results, not his rhetoric, do the talking. This is how you embody your principles in the real world. Courage is not a speech about bravery. It is the quiet act of having the difficult conversation you have been avoiding. Justice is not a social media post about fairness. It is the inconvenient choice to return the extra change the cashier gave you by mistake. Temperance is not a lecture on discipline. It is putting the phone away during dinner to be fully present. Wisdom is not quoting philosophers. It is applying a single Stoic principle to navigate a real conflict at work today. Each of these small, concrete actions is a vote for the kind of man you are becoming. They are the repetitions that build the muscle of character. A man who talks a great game but fails to act is like a beautifully designed ship that never leaves the harbor. He may look impressive, but he is serving no purpose and will eventually rot at the dock. The man of action may have a simpler vessel, but he is out on the open water, learning to sail, getting battered by storms, and actually going somewhere. His polarity comes from this forward motion, this tangible engagement with reality. He is not a commentator on the game of life, he is a player on the field. This creates a magnetic authenticity. People are drawn to those who do what they say they will do. It is a rare and powerful form of reliability. When this man speaks about a value, you can see the calluses on his hands from living it. His authority is earned, not claimed. So the question this law leaves you with is not what do you believe, but what did you do today to make that belief real? The gap between your philosophy and your life is where your true work awaits. This unshakable action, this doing over talking, requires a foundation that cannot be shaken by fortune's whims. The 18th law builds that foundation through a deliberate and counterintuitive exercise, practice poverty of wealth. This is not about embracing destitution or rejecting the good things in life. It is a scheduled fire drill for your soul. The Stoics, including the wealthy Seneca, would periodically strip away their comforts. They would dress in simple clothes, eat plain food, sleep on a hard floor, and live for a day or a week as if they had lost everything. Why would anyone do this? The purpose is not to suffer, but to conduct a crucial experiment. The question being tested is simple: where does my happiness truly reside? Is it woven into the fabric of my possessions, my status symbols, my lifestyle? Or is it an internal flame that burns regardless of external conditions? Most men never ask this question until life forces it upon them through a layoff, a market crash, or a personal disaster. By then, it is an emergency. The Stoic practices poverty in advance to prove to himself, in a controlled and safe way, that he can handle the emergency. He is stress testing his own dependencies. When you sit on the floor instead of your comfortable couch, you are not just being uncomfortable. You are having a direct conversation with the part of you that believes the couch is necessary for your peace. You are demonstrating through action that it is not. You are showing yourself that your core being, your capacity for thought, for gratitude, for quiet reflection, remains intact. This practice surgically severs the link between your inner state and your bank account. It makes you a master of your wealth, not a servant to it. Consider two men who experience a sudden financial reversal. The first man has never questioned his attachment to his standard of living. His identity is his car, his neighborhood, his watch. When the money vanishes, he feels like he is vanishing with it. He is plunged into a panic that is as much existential as it is practical. His confidence shatters because it was built on a foundation of sand. The second man has regularly practiced this Stoic law. He enjoys his nice things, but he has, by choice, experienced life without them. He knows the taste of simple food and finds it nourishing. He knows the feeling of a firm bed and sleeps soundly. When the financial storm hits, he feels the practical fear, the urgent need to solve problems, but his core identity is not under attack. He knows from lived experience that he can be happy, that he can be himself with very little. This knowledge is a superpower. It frees him from the anxiety of loss. If you know you can thrive without a thing, you no longer fear its absence. This also liberates you from the endless, exhausting chase for more. The modern trap is the hedonic treadmill, where each new acquisition briefly sparks joy before becoming the new normal, immediately creating a desire for the next upgrade. It is a race with no finish line, a thirst that cannot be quenched. The man who practices poverty steps off that treadmill. He breaks the spell of more. He looks at the latest gadget, the newer car model, the bigger house, and he can genuinely ask, would this fundamentally improve my life, or would it simply become another thing I fear losing? His contentment is internally generated, so he is not easily seduced by external laws. This does not mean he lacks ambition or ceases to produce value. It means his drive is purified. He works and creates from a place of purpose and contribution, not from a hollow need to fill a void with stuff. His relationship with money becomes clean, transactional, and strategic. Money is a tool for safety, for experience, for generosity, not a scorecard for his worth. This makes him a formidable presence in any negotiation, in any market downturn, in any social setting. He cannot be bribed with luxury because he does not crave it. He cannot be intimidated by those who have more because he does not measure himself by that ruler. His power comes from his evident lack of neediness. He is at the table because he wants to be, not because he has to be. This practice of voluntary poverty is the ultimate luxury, for it purchases the one thing money can never buy: freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from envy, freedom from the invisible chains of perpetual wanting. It allows a man to walk through a world of glittering temptation with his hands in his pockets and a calm smile, knowing that everything he truly needs he already carries within him. This cultivated freedom from material need brings you face to face with your most fundamental instrument, your physical self. The 19th law addresses this directly. Your body is your temple, not your master. The Stoic view of the physical form is a perfect balance, a razor's edge between neglect and obsession. On one side lies the trap of hedonism, worshipping the body as a source of pleasure and identity, coddling its every whim, fearing its every ache. On the other side lies the opposite error, treating it with contempt, ignoring its needs, seeing it as a mere prison for the soul. The Stoic path walks the middle. Your body is a temple, meaning it is a sacred instrument that houses your capacity for virtue, and it deserves diligent, respectful maintenance, but it is not the deity inside. You are not your biceps, your six-pack, or your genetic predispositions. You are the caretaker of this vessel, and your duty is to keep it capable, resilient, and ready for action. This means you care for it not for the sake of appearance, but for the sake of function. You train it so it can carry you through long days of purposeful work. You nourish it so your mind has the clarity to make wise decisions. You rest it so your will has the strength to exercise discipline. The body is the horse, and your rational mind is the rider. A good rider tends to his horse, keeps it healthy and strong because he needs it to travel far, but he never lets the horse decide the direction. The moment the horse is in charge, you are just being dragged wherever its instincts and appetites want to go. A man enslaved by his body is ruled by comfort. He hits the snooze button because the bed feels too good. He overindulges because the food tastes too good. He avoids hard labor because it feels too difficult. His life becomes a pursuit of ease, and in that pursuit his character atrophies. Conversely, a man who neglects his body is like a craftsman who lets his tools rust. He may have a brilliant mind and noble intentions, but he lacks the physical energy to execute them. He is constantly fatigued, susceptible to illness, and unable to respond to the physical demands life places on him. His temple is crumbling, and it limits everything the spirit inside can accomplish. The Stoic ideal is the commander. He trains his body with the same discipline he trains his mind. He engages in physical exertion not to sculpt a statue for others to admire, but to forge a tool that is reliable under pressure. He eats to fuel performance, not to entertain his palate. He sleeps to recover, not to escape. He listens to his body's signals of pain as important data, not as absolute commands to stop. This creates a powerful detachment. When you see your body as your instrument, you are not devastated by a scar, a receding hairline, or the inevitable slowing that comes with age. These are not attacks on your identity, they are simply wear and tear on the tool. Your value is not housed in your reflection, it is expressed through your actions. Think of two men approaching a physical challenge like a difficult hike. The first man, who is mastered by his body, focuses entirely on his discomfort, his burning muscles, his shortness of breath. These sensations dictate his reality. He complains, he wants to quit. His entire experience is one of suffering because he is identified with the pain. The second man, who commands his body, feels the exact same sensations. The burn, the fatigue, they are present, but he observes them from a slight distance. He acknowledges the data. My legs are tired, my heart is working hard. Then he makes a choice. I will take the next step anyway. His identity is in the choice, not in the sensation. He is using his body to accomplish something, and the discomfort is simply part of the cost. This is the essence of the law. Vanity asks, how do I look? Health asks, how do I function? Virtue asks, what can I accomplish with this function? When your physical discipline is in service to virtue, it becomes a profound expression of self-respect. You are honoring the instrument you are given by keeping it sharp, but you never bow down to it. You are the one holding the chisel, and your body is the block of marble. Your daily choices are the strikes that shape it into a form capable of building a meaningful life. This command turns physicality from a source of anxiety into a source of quiet confidence. The confidence of a man who knows his vehicle is well maintained and ready for any road. That temple of the body, when well commanded, becomes a vessel for a far greater treasure than mere physical health. The treasure is a state of being so profound it has been misunderstood for centuries. The 20th law, the art of Stoic contentment. This is not the fleeting buzz of a pleasure hit, nor the temporary satisfaction of a goal achieved. The Greek word the Stoics used was eudaimonia, which translates best as human flourishing or a life well lived. This flourishing is not a reward you find at the end of a journey. It is the quality of the journey itself, generated by one thing and one thing only, living in accordance with virtue right here and now. Modern happiness is almost always transactional. We condition it on an if. I will be happy if I get the promotion. I will be happy if I lose 20 pounds. I will be happy if she says yes. This creates a life perpetually on hold, a happiness always dangling just out of reach, dependent on a world we do not control. The moment you get that promotion, your mind immediately attaches happiness to the next rung on the ladder. It is a treadmill and you are the hamster. Stoic contentment smashes this entire model. It declares that your flourishing is an internal achievement available to you this very second. It is the direct result of acting with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance in this present moment. The promotion, the physique, the relationship, these are preferred indifference. They are nice to have, but they are not the source. The source is your own virtuous activity. A man who masters this art becomes a psychological fortress. His peace is not negotiable. It does not depend on the stock market, the weather, or the opinions of others. He can be content in a bustling city or a quiet room, in times of plenty or times of scarcity. This is not a bland, emotionless state. It is a vibrant, engaged serenity. He feels the full spectrum of human emotion: joy, grief, excitement, disappointment. But these emotions do not hijack him, because his core sense of flourishing is anchored to something unchanging: his commitment to living well. Imagine two men stuck in a traffic jam on their way to an important meeting. The first man, whose happiness is tied to the externals of being on time and looking successful, is in hell. His heart races, he curses, he pounds the steering wheel. His entire being is tied to the red brake lights ahead of him. He arrives flustered, angry, and already defeated. The second man, who practices Stoic contentment, feels the same frustration. He too would prefer to be on time, but he recognizes the traffic is outside his control. His sphere of control, his own mind and actions in this moment. He uses the time. Perhaps he listens to an audiobook, or he uses the quiet to mentally prepare for the meeting's substance. He arrives at the same meeting, perhaps a few minutes late, but he is calm, centered, and ready to engage. His contentment was not broken by the delay because it was never dependent on the schedule in the first place. This self-sufficiency is deeply, magnetically attractive. In a world of neediness where people constantly seek validation, excitement, and distraction to feel okay, the content man is a pillar of quiet assurance. He is not looking for you to complete him or entertain him. He is already full. This allows him to engage with others from a place of genuine generosity, not covert need. He can listen without waiting for his turn to talk. He can appreciate beauty without needing to possess it. He can love without clinging. His presence is a gift because it asks for nothing in return. This is the ultimate expression of masculine polarity, a gravitational calm that draws people in because it feels real and reliable. He does not chase happiness, he generates it through the quality of his character, moment by moment. And in doing so, he discovers that contentment was never something to be found, but something to be built from the inside out with every virtuous choice. Seneca opened his essay with a line that cuts to the bone. "It is not that we have a short time to live," he wrote, "but that we waste a great deal of it." Life is long enough if you know how to use it. This is the heart of the 21st law. Guard your time as your most precious asset. The Stoics saw time as the one truly non-renewable resource. You can earn more money, you can rebuild a reputation, you can regain your health, but a moment spent is gone forever. It is the ultimate currency, and how you spend it defines the man you are becoming. Masculine polarity is impossible without this fierce intentionality. A scattered man, a man whose days are frittered away on distraction and trivial pursuit, has no center of gravity. He is pulled into the agendas of others, into the bottomless pit of digital noise, into activities that leave him exhausted but no closer to his purpose. Guarding your time is not about efficiency hacks or rigid scheduling, though those can be tools. It is a philosophical stance. It is the recognition that every yes to one thing is a no to everything else. And so you must become a relentless editor of your own life. This begins with a brutal audit. Track your days, not to micromanage yourself, but to see the truth. How many hours are passively consumed by screens, by gossip, by tasks that do not align with your virtues or move you toward a meaningful goal? You will likely find vast deserts of time that are not lost to dramatic vice, but to gentle, persistent erosion. The Stoic response is to reclaim those deserts. You start saying no. No to the optional meeting that serves no purpose. No to the social obligation that drains you. No to the extra hour scrolling that leaves you feeling hollow. This is not about being rude or selfish. It is about being sovereign. Your time is the soil from which your life grows, and you must stop letting anyone else plant weeds in it. This especially applies to the people you allow into your orbit. Remember the law about your circle. A person who consistently wastes your time with drama, with neediness, with idle chatter, is not just a poor companion, they are a thief. They are stealing the one thing you can never get back. Guarding your time means having the courage to set boundaries, to limit access, or to walk away. The reward for this vigilance is a life that feels dense with meaning. When you cut away the trivial, what remains are the actions that truly matter. Time spent in deep work that challenges you, Time spent in genuine connection with loved ones fully present. Time spent in physical training that fortifies your temple. Time spent in reflection that strengthens your inner citadel. Each of these is an investment, not an expenditure. Imagine two men with the same 24 hours. The first man's day is a reactive blur. He wakes up and checks his phone, immediately absorbing the world's chaos. His workday is fractured by constant notifications and interruptions. His evening is spent half watching television while half scrolling through social media. He goes to bed feeling vaguely tired and unfulfilled, his time having slipped through his fingers like sand. The second man, who guards his time, begins his day with intention. He protects his first hour for himself, perhaps for reading, meditation, or planning his priorities. He works in focused blocks, silencing distractions. He is deliberate about his leisure, choosing an activity that genuinely restores him or connects him with his family. He ends his day with a clear mind, knowing his time was spent on what he values. Which man possesses polarity? Which man is building a life of substance? The difference is not in the hours available, but in the stewardship applied. To guard your time is to respect the gift of your existence. It is to live with the urgency that Memento Mori teaches, but channeled into calm, purposeful action. It is the daily practice of aligning your most finite resource with your deepest virtues. When you do this, you stop being a passenger in your own life. You take the wheel, you plot the course, and you move forward with the quiet confidence of a man who knows exactly where he is going, because he has chosen with every minute to head in that direction. The emperor's power came not from his title, but from his character. Marcus Aurelius, ruling one of history's most vast and volatile empires, could have led through fear and absolute decree. He chose a different path, one that defines the 22nd law: lead by example, not by decree. This is the Stoic model of authority stripped bare. It understands that true influence is not about the volume of your commands, but the quality of your conduct. You cannot demand courage from your team while you hide from difficult decisions. You cannot preach justice while playing favorites. You cannot enforce discipline while you yourself are ruled by your appetites. The hypocrisy is always seen, and it poisons respect. Real leadership, in the Stoic sense, is a silent contract. It says, "Watch what I do, and you will understand what we value here." Marcus did not need to publish a memo on resilience. He demonstrated it by spending years on the harsh northern frontier with his troops, sharing their hardships. He did not need to lecture on duty. He modeled it by attending to the minutiae of imperial administration, even when he was weary and ill. His authority was magnetic because it was earned, not imposed. He was the calmest, most principled person in any room, and that presence set a standard more powerful than any threat. Think of a ship's captain in a storm. The captain who barks orders while his own hands are shaking and his voice is pitched in panic creates terror. The crew's energy is spent on managing their own fear, not on executing the tasks needed for survival. Now picture the captain who moves with deliberate calm. His voice is steady, his instructions are clear, his own focus is absolute. He does not tell the crew to be calm, he embodies calm. His composure is a lifeline they can all grab onto. They mirror his state, their fear recedes, and they become capable of the work. This is leadership by example in its purest form. In your own life, this law applies everywhere you have influence, which is everywhere. Are you a father? Your children will not learn patience from your lectures on waiting. They will learn it from watching you stand calmly in a long line without complaint. Are you a manager? Your team will not learn integrity from the company's value statement on the wall. They will learn it from seeing you admit a mistake openly and correct it. Are you a friend? You will not teach loyalty by demanding it, but by demonstrating it consistently when others are not around to see. This form of leadership requires immense internal strength. It means you must first win the battle within yourself. You must cultivate the virtues you wish to see in the world before you can possibly expect them from anyone else. Your primary leadership project is always your own character. When you do this, a subtle but profound shift occurs. You stop needing to control people. You stop needing their constant validation or immediate obedience. Your energy is no longer spent on micromanaging behaviors but on perfecting your own. And a strange alchemy happens. People begin to voluntarily rise to meet the standard you are living. They are not obeying you, they are choosing to emulate you. This inspires a loyalty that commands never could. A soldier obeys a tyrant out of fear, but he will follow a true leader through hell out of respect and a desire to be like him. In the modern workplace, a team forced to meet a quota will do the minimum. A team inspired by a leader who works harder, thinks deeper, and treats everyone with fairness will often surpass expectations because they are invested in the mission and the person leading it. This law eradicates the need for empty motivational speeches. Your life becomes the speech. Your consistent action in the face of difficulty is a more powerful rallying cry than any words. When you are the first to take on the hard task, when you are the last to claim credit, when you maintain your principles even when it costs you, you are not just leading, you are building a culture. You are showing in the most tangible way possible what excellence looks like. This is how you build a legacy that lasts, not through titles you held, but through the character you displayed and the example that continued to guide others long after you are gone. That example you set, unwavering in principle, faces its ultimate test not in hardship but in its opposite. The 23rd law addresses this: cultivate equanimity in success and failure. The Stoic ideal is a man who remains on an even keel whether the winds of fortune fill his sails or tear them to shreds. Praise or criticism, victory or defeat, promotion or demotion, these are external weather patterns. His internal climate, anchored to the bedrock of his character, remains steady. This is not emotional flatness or indifference. It is the profound understanding that neither your triumphs nor your disasters define your worth. Your worth is defined by how you navigate them. Success is a far more dangerous test of character than failure. Failure can be crushing, but it often humbles us and forces a reckoning. Success, however, can be a subtle poison. It whispers lies of superiority, of specialness, that you alone are responsible for your good fortune, ignoring the role of luck, timing, and the contributions of others. It inflates the ego, creating a bubble of arrogance that is just waiting to be popped. The man without equanimity soaks up praise like a sponge, letting it swell his sense of self. He begins to believe his own press. He starts expecting special treatment, his effort wanes, and he becomes entitled and brittle. The fall, when it inevitably comes, is catastrophic because his entire identity was tied to being on top. Now consider the Stoic approach. A man achieves a major professional victory. He feels the natural surge of satisfaction, the relief, the joy. He celebrates with his team, acknowledging their role. But he does something crucial. He immediately brings his mind back to the dichotomy of control. He recognizes that the outcome, while preferred, was never fully his to command. Market conditions, a competitor's mistake, a lucky break, these played a part. His sphere of control was his preparation, his effort, his integrity during the process. That is what he takes pride in, the virtuous action, not the trophy. He therefore does not attach his identity to the result. The trophy sits on the shelf while his sense of self remains rooted within. This prevents arrogance. He knows he is the same man he was yesterday, just with a new piece of data about what is possible. He remains humble, curious, and hungry because his goal was never just to win but to play the game well. Now flip the script to failure, a crushing personal or professional loss. The man without equanimity is swallowed by it. He sees the failure as a verdict on his entire being. He tumbles into despair, shame, or bitterness. He may give up entirely, believing the story that he is simply not good enough. The Stoic, feeling the same sharp sting of disappointment, does not grant the event that power. He applies amor fati. He loves this fate for the lesson it carries. He brings it to the light of reason. What within my control contributed to this? What can I learn? What does this free me to do next? He separates the event from his core self. He thinks, I failed at this, not I am a failure. His internal state, while sobered, is not shattered. He remains anchored so he can begin rebuilding from a place of clear-eyed assessment, not emotional wreckage. This unflappable consistency is a superpower in a volatile world. It makes a man unbelievably reliable. Think of a ship's captain in calm seas and in a hurricane. If he is giddy and overconfident in the calm and paralyzed with terror in the storm, no one would feel safe aboard his vessel. But if he maintains the same calm command, the same attentive focus in both conditions, the crew trusts him with their lives. They know his competence is not a fair-weather facade. In life, people are drawn to this same stability. As a leader, your team needs to know that your mood, your judgment, and your support for them will not swing wildly based on quarterly results. They need a calm center. As a partner, your family needs to know that your presence is steady, that a bad day at work won't make you a storm cloud at the dinner table, and a big bonus won't make you suddenly distracted by grandiosity. This equanimity signals a deep, quiet self-mastery. It communicates that you are not easily bought with flattery or broken by criticism. You have assessed your own value and it is not on the market. This creates a tremendous psychological advantage in negotiations, in conflicts, in any high-stakes situation. While others are emotionally tossed by the prospect of gain or loss, you are simply there, clear-headed, making decisions based on principle and long-term strategy, not on the fleeting heat of the moment. Your even keel becomes your most recognizable and respected trait, the mark of a man who cannot be knocked off balance because his balance comes from within. That even keel, that steady gaze, is tested most severely not by markets or storms, but by other people. A rude comment, a betrayal of trust, a thoughtless act from a colleague, these are the sparks that can ignite a fire of bitterness inside your carefully built citadel. To navigate this, we turn to the 24th law, see the humanity in others. The Stoics called this interconnectedness sympatheia. It is the profound recognition that all rational beings are part of a single, shared system. We are woven from the same thread, facing the same fundamental human struggles. When someone acts in a way that offends or hurts you, your first, primal instinct is to see them as an adversary, a malicious force deliberately targeting your peace. This law asks you to pause that instinct and look deeper. See them not as a monster, but as a flawed human being, acting from a place of ignorance, pain, or mistaken judgment. Just like you, this is not about making excuses for bad behavior or becoming a doormat. It is a strategic shift in perception that protects your inner peace and grants you immense power in conflict. The Stoic philosopher Emperor Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this in his private journal. When annoyed by someone, he would instruct himself to consider their background, their pressures, their limited understanding. He would say to himself, they cannot help it, they are acting according to what seems right to them. This is not a sigh of resignation, it is an act of intellectual clarity. It moves the event from the emotional realm of personal attack into the objective realm of cause and effect. Let us make this concrete. You are cut off in traffic by an aggressive driver. The reactive, untrained response is rage. That idiot, that selfish jerk, he did that to me. Your heart pounds, you might yell or make a gesture, and your peace is shattered for the next 10 miles. Now apply the 24th law. See the humanity. You do not know his story. Perhaps he is racing to a hospital, gripped by a panic you cannot see. Perhaps he is late for a job he desperately needs, his mind clouded by fear. Perhaps he is simply ignorant, a poor driver who lacks awareness, not character. This does not make his action right or safe, but it changes your relationship to it. You are no longer the victim of a targeted assault. You are a witness to another human being's struggle or failure. The anger dissipates, replaced by a calm caution. You create space, you ensure your own safety, and you move on with your day undisturbed. Your peace remains intact because you refuse to let a stranger's ignorance become your inner turmoil. This practice is even more critical in closer relationships. A partner speaks to you with sharp, unfair criticism. The easy path is to fire back, to defend, to see them as the enemy in that moment. But if you can muster the discipline to see their humanity, you might look past the words to the person. You might see the fatigue in their eyes, the stress from their own day that is leaking out, the unspoken fear that is masquerading as anger. This does not mean you accept abuse. It means you respond to the cause, not just the symptom. Instead of saying, "How dare you talk to me like that?" you might say, "You seem really upset. What is going on?" You address the human being behind the behavior. This transforms conflicts from battles to be won into problems to be solved together. It fosters compassion without an ounce of weakness because it comes from a position of strength and understanding, not fear or submission. When you habitually see the humanity in others, you perform a silent act of self-defense. You inoculate yourself against the poison of bitterness and chronic rage. Holding onto resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It is a cancer that eats away at your inner citadel from the inside. By choosing to see the other as a fallible, ignorant human, just as you yourself have been fallible and ignorant, you break the cycle. You free up the immense mental and emotional energy that was previously spent on nursing grievances and weaving narratives of persecution. That energy is now available to you for creation, for connection, for your own growth. You become a man who is difficult to offend, not because you have no standards, but because you understand the source of most offenses. Your composure in the face of pettiness or aggression becomes a quiet, unanswerable force. People may try to provoke you, but they find nothing to hook into, no ego to bruise, only a calm, observing humanity reflecting back at them. This is the final, essential layer of that unshakable masculine polarity, a strength so secure it has room for understanding, and a peace so deep it cannot be disturbed by the failings of others. This final law brings us full circle, back to the quiet solitude of your own mind. After a day of engaging the world, of facing obstacles, of interacting with others, the most important conversation is the one you have with yourself. The 25th law is the daily review, a Stoic ritual of ruthless and compassionate self-examination. Each night before sleep claims you, you sit with the events of the day. You ask 3 simple, piercing questions. Where did I act in accordance with virtue today? Where did I fall short? And what impressions, what judgments misled me? This is not an exercise in self-flagellation. It is not about compiling a list of failures to punish yourself. Think of it as the quality control check for your character, a daily debrief from the front lines of your own life. The goal is not judgment, but clarity. You are the coach reviewing the game film, not the critic writing a scathing review. You are looking for patterns, for leaks in your discipline, for moments where your reason was hijacked by a raw impression. Perhaps you acted with great courage in a difficult meeting, speaking a hard truth with respect. You note that. You feel the solid satisfaction of a principle lived. Then you examine the moment you lost your patience in traffic, the harsh tone you used with a loved one when you were tired, the hour you wasted on distraction when you promised yourself you would work. You look at these not as moral catastrophes, but as training data. Why did that impression of being cut off trigger such rage? What underlying belief was challenged? The belief that the road should conform to my preferences. Why did fatigue so easily override my commitment to kindness? This process, done consistently, installs a feedback loop of unparalleled power. Without it, life just happens to you. Days blur into weeks and you repeat the same mistakes, guided by the same unconscious impulses. You might feel a vague dissatisfaction, but you cannot pinpoint the source. The daily review stops the blur. It turns every single day, no matter how ordinary, into a deliberate training session for your soul. each interaction becomes a case study. Each challenge becomes a test of your current skill level. Each success becomes a confirmed technique to add to your repertoire. This is how you move from understanding these laws intellectually to etching them into your nervous system. You are not just reading a manual on how to build a house. You are inspecting your work at the end of each day, noting where the joints are strong and where the mortar is weak, so you can return tomorrow and build it better. A man who neglects this practice is like a sailor who never checks his compass or charts his position. He may have a general sense of direction, but he is constantly drifting, corrected only by the crashing of waves against unseen rocks. The man who makes the daily review his non-negotiable ritual is the navigator. Each night he takes a celestial fix. He marks his position relative to his virtues. He sees the drift caused by today's emotional currents, and with that precise information, he can adjust his course for tomorrow. He goes to sleep not with regret but with a plan. He knows exactly what aspect of his character needs a little more attention, which discipline requires a stronger focus. This practice ensures you are never standing still. You are either actively building your inner citadel or you are passively allowing it to erode. There is no neutral ground. The daily review is the trowel in your hand, the tool that allows for continuous, incremental improvement. It is the engine that turns philosophy from a theory you admire into a man you are becoming. When you close your eyes after this honest accounting, you are not the same man who woke up that morning. You are wiser by one day's experience, calibrated by one night's reflection, and more aligned with a natural, unshakable masculine polarity than you were just 24 hours before. And tomorrow you begin again. 25 laws might feel like a heavy load, but that is the point. This is not a checklist to race through or a set of rules to memorize. It is an operating system, a single, cohesive architecture for the mind. Each law interlocks with the others, forming a resilient structure. The dichotomy of control is the foundation. Amor fati is the acceptance of the land you build upon. The inner citadel is the stronghold at the center, fortified by the daily disciplines of ascent, action, and desire. Voluntary discomfort is the training yard within its walls. Memento mori is the watchtower that gives you perspective, and the view from above is the horizon it shows you. Every principle, from owning your errors to guarding your time, is a stone placed with intention, each one supporting the next. Together, they create a polarity that is not a performance for the world, but a gravitational truth within you. This is the project of a lifetime. There is no final exam, no graduation day where you receive a diploma in unshakable calm. It is the practice itself that forges you. Each day is another opportunity to lay a stone, to strengthen a wall, to sit in the quiet of your nightly review and assess the work. The goal is not perfection, it is direction. It is the unwavering commitment to face the chaos of the world, not with more chaos, but with a deeper, quieter order that you generate from within. This is the natural masculine polarity, not dominance over others, but sovereignty over the self. It is the calm that allows for true strength, the clarity that enables decisive action, and the compassion that stems from unbreakable inner security. So where do you begin when the blueprint is this comprehensive? You begin with a single brick. This week, choose one law, just one. Perhaps it is the one that challenged you most as you listened, the one that made you uncomfortable. Maybe it is the discipline of ascent, and you commit to pausing 3 times tomorrow before you react. Maybe it is voluntary discomfort, and you take a cold shower tomorrow morning. Maybe it is speaking only what is necessary, and you go a full day without complaining or gossiping. Do not try to rebuild the entire citadel in a day. Pick up one stone, fit it into place, feel the solidity of that single, deliberate act. Then tomorrow choose another. This is how a life is remade, not in grand, sweeping declarations, but in the quiet, daily choice to align with a principle just for today. In the comments below, tell me which law you are choosing to focus on this week. which one resonates most or which one presents the greatest challenge. Your shared intention creates a community of practice, a fellowship of men committed to the real work. If this journey into practical philosophy has provided a map for you, subscribe to the channel. Every week, we continue forging stronger minds and more purposeful lives, turning ancient wisdom into modern action. The path is here, the tools are in your hands. Now go build something solid.